All right, so the next step is to now start actually taking some simple or doing some simple calculations now that you have filtered some of your data and made it a little bit easier to work with. So you'll notice on your homework sheet that you can, for example, take the average of something. It's very simple to do this on sheets. So let's head to sheets. So let's say, for example, we have here the dissolved oxygen, right? So we have the Winkler method, top dissolved oxygen, milligrams per liter, and then we have the same thing, but for the bottom dissolved oxygen. Now it's up to you, but I'm just using this as an example because it's the simplest. The way that you take the average and you do this the least painless way as possible is first type in your label for your column. So let's call this dissolved oxygen. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to write a comment. So there's a couple ways you can do this. You can right click and just scroll down. You can comment. You can also go to insert and comment. And what I want you to do is write the date that you are making this calculation. And then I want you to write the actual calculation. And I want you to, yes, average. And then I want you to write the reason. Let's say it's to simplify the data. Top and bottom are not needed for analysis. Now this can change, right? So one thing to note is that if you think that you're not 100% sure if you want to keep just the average um, rather than using the top and the bottom, what you should do is there's two things you can do. You can actually create a new sheet, copy and paste, then put the average there. Or what you can do is once you're done with creating the averages, you can select both rows. So you can either press and hold shift or control. It'll highlight both. And then you can either go to this arrow here and you can hide those columns, or same sort of thing, right click, hide the columns. And that will make your columns disappear. And if you want to have them reappear, you'll notice, excuse me, these two arrows that are horizontal. Just double click one of those arrows. There we go. And it will open up again. Now, how to take the average. Like I said, very, very simple. The very easiest way to do this is select your first cell. Super important. You must type equals. This tells Sheets that you're now going to use a formula. You can either start typing average and it will come up in a list. You can also go to functions and you can select average from here. You'll notice these parentheses. Average itself is a function. What it means is just like in math class, you have your f, your x is your input, your f of x is your output. Same exact concept. Instead of calling it f, we call it average. There's a calculation that's already in Sheets that does the average for you. You just have to select your columns, right, or your rows, whichever cells you want. In this case, you just tap your whatever cell you want. So we'll tap this cell, then we'll tap and hold and drag to select the cells. So if you don't know how to do that, you can either, if you have a mouse, it's been a long time since I've used a mouse, so I usually double tap. So you can either shift or control and then tap, or with the mouse, you can left click, drag, and it will highlight both. And you'll notice that you have your column and your row. So G2, that's G2, 5.4, and then you have these the what are they called? These two dots. I forgot the name of them. Just that quick. And then you have your H and your 2. Same thing here. And this is your range. So for example, if you wanted to average, don't do this. But if you wanted to average your entire row, it would go from, all you would see is C2 all the way up to H2. Now, all you have to do now, hit enter. Now you have your average. Super important. So you're not doing this for every single row. You'll notice I moved my mouse over to this blue little square here. And you'll notice the mouse turns from an arrow to a crossbow or a plus sign, a really big plus sign. You want to, I use a mouse pad, so I double tap and keep my finger on the mouse pad. You can left click and just hold the button down, and you want to click and drag. Click, drag all the way to the bottom. Now, this will take forever. Another way that you can do this is, let's see if I can do this. You copy, so Control C, tap the next row, scroll all the way down to the bottom of your data set. There we go. Press Shift, hold it down, press that, right click, and oops, shouldn't have done that. Shoot, let's do this again. Let's find the bottom. There we go. Shift, and then Control V. There we go. And now it has calculated your averages for each and every single column. There you go. One final thing is you'll notice here that you have everything except for this data point here and this data point here. Let's say you want all of your data to be the same in terms of the number of places, decimal places, right? So especially for here where there's 2, whereas everywhere else there's 1. So the way you fix this is you select your whatever cell that you want. I'm going to select the entire sheet because I like everything to be uniform. I'm going to scroll all the way to the end of my data, and there's something that popped up, so I want to fix that. And actually there's a couple things to do, because you'll notice this here, right? And that's because these 2 cells are empty. So that's why that's coming up. It's basically saying you can't divide by 0, even though technically that's 0 over 0, but whatever. Shift, hold, tap. Now all of your actual data points are highlighted. Here, this decreases your decimal places. This increases your decimal places. First thing you want to do, make sure your format is selected to number. And that will actually fix the error message that you received. That shows it's calculated.